and welcome. I'm your host, Amy Aish, and you are watching Women Spring. Today we have our guest, Dr. Hasna Shafiq, physician scientist. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for the invite, Iman.
Can you tell our audience about your experience in USA?
Yes, actually, I came to the USA to learn. Actually, I came to go to school. In Egypt, I graduated from the medical school of Ain Shams University, my alma mater. And then after that, I became a resident for internal medicine for a while. So after that, I decided that what I really like the most is to do more research. I wanted to really understand why, for instance, certain diseases take place like cancer. So I was so much interested in cancer. And I joined the department. There was an opening in the Department of Public Health and Occupational and Industrial Medicine. And I joined and I became an instructor. So I was so much inspired by the amount of knowledge that you can gather by studying the patients and whatever they are exposed to, like workers, they are exposed to many things. At the time, we had a big conference that I helped actually coordinate and organize with my advisor back home in Egypt. And it was about mutagenesis and cancer.
What year was that?
Oh, that was many years ago. That was actually in the 80s.
Wonderful.
So I said, okay. So I started, I said, okay, that will be the thing that I want to study further. So I got, I was awarded a fellowship to come to the States, and the field of study would be environmental toxicology, which actually says that how cancer takes place, what's there in the environment that is hazardous, that will lead a normal cell, just a normal cell, to become cancerous and cause cancer. So this is what I learned, and that was really what I really wanted to do.
So what was the experience that shaped your career and make you who you are today?
Okay, well, basically, when you are young, I just want to make sure that, for instance, especially among American audience, they don't realize that when you graduate from medical school in Egypt, you're just 23 years old. So I was 23, and I found myself in a situation responsible of patients and everything. I remember the very first week, when it was actually just became like an intern, and maybe that's beginner's luck or something. And the chief resident told me, Hasna, you are going to have 2 patients that are not going to see the light of the day tomorrow. These young ladies are not going to make it till tomorrow. So I said, what? God. Is he playing God here? So I really was challenging him. How do you know that? And he told me, I have exams and stuff. I don't want you to bother me and call me to come, because I know the diagnosis, I know the prognosis, I know everything. You just have to be trained to take that brunt. I said, okay, so I didn't really listen to him. And I was talking to one of the patients, and I thought, and her fiance was waiting outside. And I said, you know what? Things are going to be as planned. The wedding is going to be the same time and everything. And then she told me, oh, you're such a wonderful doctor. And in a second, she collapsed and died.
Oh my God.
So that was, I said, what is that? So I was really devastated.
23.
23. And I said, you know what? This is not an easy job I have selected for myself. So that shaped me in a sense that I felt that this is not a joke. This is serious business. I'm dealing with patients' lives. And I have to be really, at the top of the responsibility, that I can take, action, because he told me the first thing I have to do is to write a death certificate. I said, this is never going to be my first duty, official duty, to write a death certificate for somebody. I said, no. So what shaped me really is just the feeling of the responsibility, intense responsibility at such a young age, very young age. And you have to, so life can go any minute.
Oh my God.
So so you have to gain since you're living, you have to do whatever you like the most. So
that's great. So how did you balance between your family responsibilities and work?
That's a very good question. Actually, it was challenging. You know, when I came here to the States, I had a son that was only 4 months old. And I had to balance just being a new mother in a new environment, and the support system's kind of lacking because, you know, you've always been a student, as far as I know in my life. I was always, you know, a student trying to do my best to achieve good grades and whatever, and do whatever, you know, I want to achieve next. So it was, you know, I wasn't really ready for setbacks. I didn't really want to, you know, lose the momentum. So you're very right. It was very challenging at times because my husband was also studying at the same time.
Especially for immigrants, when you don't have extended family, you just have, you know, back home.
Yeah.
What we used to do, we leave the kids with the mom and you just go to school, and most of us get married after high school and leave the kids with my mom or his mom, and you just, life is easy. But here,
no. That's not the case for sure.
No family support.
No, you know, many times because we used to divide the work. I mean, you have to have a supportive husband, actually. That's the most important thing. So both of you have to work it out. So at days, you know, that, you know, someone is going to stay home and babysit. And then after, you know, the kids sleep, we'll study. You know, at that time, you know, I go to the library, for instance, and study.
Yeah.
So like we did it, you know, alternate days. So it was so funny when I come back, I found my husband sleeping and the kids, you know, sleeping too. But, you know, but I used to stay in the library till maybe midnight.
See, it was not like now. You have everything available on the web, and, you know, but...
Yeah. And you don't want the noise, you know, because if the kids know that you're at home, they're going to bug you, you know, oh, mommy do this or mommy do that. So we had to really divide the workforce, you know, you take care today and I take tomorrow. I mean, so it worked really well.
Was he studying too? Or?
Yes, he was studying.
Oh my God.
And many times we used to meet one another, for instance, like in the conference room, we're maybe attending the same meeting. Oh, hi, you're here. So sometimes we don't see each other except, you know, because we're in the same university doing our degrees. So it was kind of... But it was challenging, and it all passed. So
that's great.
Let me tell you something which might be interesting. You know that as a graduate student, you're supposed to give seminars and talks and whatever, you know. And you have to rehearse, of course, and you have to prepare for them. So what I used to do, back in the day, I mean, we didn't have these fancy phones of nowadays or something, so I used to get a little tape recorder, and I tape the stuff. Because the only thing I can do is to put them in my ears and listen to it just to understand what I'm about to say, to rehearse on it. And then do the kids, you know, change their diapers, do the laundry, cook, whatever. I didn't have much time, but you have to really learn to multitask. So the thing is to learn to multitask, and so the big topic is time management. So time management was really, so I think you learn the hard way. I mean, I wasn't like that, you know, I was very spoiled little girl.
Yeah.
I did nothing when I was living with my parents. That everything, you know, just going
fall on your lap, you have to take care of it.
You have to take care of that. So that's, you know, so I think all of these, you know, experiences, you know, like, you know, makes you
you learn as you go.
You learn as we go.
Yeah.
So,
if you have to give your younger self a career advice, what would it be?
Actually, I was very trusting. And maybe this is not a good thing because you don't know the people around you.
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
Trust and verify.
That is true.
Yeah.
So I remember that I left my lab notes in the lab after doing experiments that took over 6 months to prepare.
Oh my God.
And they were gone. So, of course, this is not a good thing. So, you know, you don't have to be trusting. At the same time, you know, you have not... You know, you just have to trust people at this. You have to have good judgment, and you will never have good judgment till you go through experiences. You know, so this is, you know, things that I really would tell a young lady. Just, you know, be careful. Just be careful and try to not to be open, you know, and just think that everybody.
Don't put yourself at risk, and you know, because it cost you like 6 months of work. We're gone at the moment, besides the stress.
Yeah, that is true. So, you know, this is one of the things. I think the thing that all in all, you have to be tolerant. And I think not necessarily, this is from nowadays. I mean, when this happened, I was much younger. But now after, you know, going through all these years of experience, I feel that I'm getting to be more and more tolerant and more flexible, because many things are not the end of the world. Additionally, there is many times and many occasions, there is no right and wrong answer. Yeah. So the take-home message is that your personality trait and others, maybe you are going to disagree, but what you have to learn, that you have to work together. So you know the person? Okay, so you know what the limits of that person. So in order to have a successful relationship, you have to work together to do it right.
You have to work on yourself first, not on, because
Yes.
it's hard to change others,
That is correct.
Yeah,
yes.
so being flexible helps.
Yes, exactly, and be understanding. And why the decision was made in this way? Because of that. So I'm convinced it's fine. I can live with it. So the take-home message here: you have to choose to fight your battles. So not everything you raise havoc.
You don't fight for everything.
Yeah, for everything. Yeah, see what is really so important to you and do it. But not, because many times people who are difficult people just blow up every time. But
yeah, true.
So this is what I really would give myself. Because I went through, times that I would be really upset, and it's nothing.
We have melted down because we don't comprehend why this is happening.
Yes. We need to reason things. Okay, that's one. I see the other point of view. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what was the last research you participated on?
Okay, so in order to answer this question, I will actually maybe go a segue here and tell you where I work.
Okay.
Okay, I work in the National Cancer Institute, which also goes as the NCI. And the NCI is actually the leader in cancer research, as well as it provides funding. I mean, this is the largest funder of cancer research in the world. Like, for instance, if you want to know our budget, our budget for the year, fiscal year 2020 is over $6 billion.
This is great.
This is great. This is a lot of money. So promising. I mean, so that to tell you that actually cancer research is on the top of the agenda, thanks to the Congress and President Trump, who really appropriated this amount of money to the National Cancer Institute. So since I'm part of the institute, actually, so my office, which is known as the Office of Cancer Centers, actually has a budget that we actually grant the cancer centers to do their work. So the NCI in general, as I said, it leads cancer research because they want to have people live longer, better lives. And obviously the main interest will be to build the cancer researchers of the future. You have to train them well, you have to provide funding for them to do the research, and in general, you have to really make them, work well together. So it's always good to have, collaboration, because the more you collaborate, it gets synergized. Everything will move forward. So my job is actually to provide the framework for these cancer researchers to move forward, to put guidelines. I mean, as an administrator, because my work now being a physician scientist, so I understand the science, I would like to say that, plus administratively have to provide the guidance to the cancer centers to move forward and try to, work, because what they really do, they are great institutions that have the superb cancer care facilities for the patients, and they have the state-of-the-art sciences. So just imagine when you put engineers, basic scientists, and physicians, see what kind of things can happen.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Some diseases like hepatitis C, they found a cure for it. They take the pills for 28 days and it's gone. Do you think one day cancer will be the same way, 28 days or a month, and it disappear?
That's a good question. Actually, cancer, because many people think that cancer is one disease. Cancer is hundreds of diseases. There are, as we have several, like organs and cells and so on. So each of these little cells will develop cancer. I mean, capable of getting cancer. So cancer is not one disease. So we've been very successful with some diseases, greatly successful. Like if you see, like 5 years ago, lung cancer was a death sentence. It is no longer the case.
Okay.
Things are improving a lot.
Is there any way you guys can invent a vaccine or something for people to?
Well, in fact, there are some trials into
Really?
certain kinds
That's
of cancers.
wonderful.
Yeah, there
That's
are some
wonderful.
trials going on, and things are moving forward. Yes, but we. If you see the I don't want to be really technical. Mortality rate is the death rate.
Yeah, death rate is how much is it?
It varies from cancer to cancer, but everything has improved, except for maybe pancreatic cancer. This is not really, but it was terribly bad. It's still not as the way you want it to be. But before, as I said, lung cancer was a killer, melanoma was a killer. Now the death rate from cancer has dropped completely. So we're doing a lot of progress. This $6.25 billion are doing wonders.
This is what we want to see.
Yeah, so it's working.
I'm not a physician and I don't understand much in the medical stuff, but I'll just common sense. Somebody has, let's say, liver cancer. And when they take the treatment, the chemotherapy, they become tired, they lose their hair, they get sick, and it's such like too much pain for years to come. So I was thinking why they don't inject or treat that part that's damaged with cancer only, instead of the whole body going through this.
Well, there are treatments nowadays.
Do you think one day they will?
Yeah, actually, most of the trials going on now are trying to be known as targeted therapy.
Yeah, that would be good.
So it's going to target, as well as, it's also part of what we are really working on now is known as precision medicine. So you are tailoring the treatment to your patient. Not necessarily, you're not giving everybody the same thing, because what's happening, let me go back a tiny bit. Cancer to occur, there is kind of mutation. Mutation means that the DNA of the cell has been altered somehow by a certain mutation, and there are tons of things that lead to the mutation. So what they do, the patients are actually going to be tested molecularly to know what kind of mutation, and then you give the treatment for that particular patient based on the mutation. So you'd be surprised that perhaps lung cancer can have the same medication as a liver cancer patient because they have the same kind of mutation.
Okay.
So it has changed actually the field tremendously, because the regimens and the protocols of treatment have changed because of that, and this is really successful.
That would be great. By the time you spend all that money you have in budget,
yes,
there is no concern.
We're doing our best.
That would be great. Okay, yeah. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
Women after 50, and they start the average age in this country is 51, 52 for women menopause.
Okay.
For menopause, it's only for women.
Yeah.
But anyway,
you'll be surprised. Men can also get.
Everybody loses, suffers hormone imbalance, men or women after 50. Yeah. So hormone replacement. What is most recent on that field?
Okay, so I'll tell you, hormonal replacement therapy is actually you give the patient estrogen, and sometimes you give it estrogen and progesterone together, because there are benefits from doing that. The benefits are women are going to avoid suffering from the symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, dryness. And it was also found that estrogen is going to help actually prevent bone loss that can lead to people suffering. Yes, they cannot walk properly, the fatigue and so on. So that's really the asset of having the hormonal replacement therapy. But it's important.
Yes.
Everything, we're talking about the benefits, but we have to talk about the risks.
Okay.
Are there any risks associated with that? And the answer is yes. In the biggest trial that was made, to evaluate all of that, there were some complications, and they were, quite serious. Heart disease, stroke, blood clots, and breast cancer. Those were the consequences, in some of the people. With the clinical trial, they showed these complications consistently.
That's everybody, or?
No. So they did, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So when they did further analysis, so they reached the conclusion that women who were above 60 okay, or started the hormonal therapy after 10 or 20 years after menopause, they were more prone to develop these symptoms. For women under 60, or started taking the therapy within 10 days of menopause, they didn't develop that. So the question will be, so who would you recommend to have the therapy?
Yeah.
So I would say, if the symptoms are so severe,
Depression, for example, this is,
yeah, if that's the case, so that would be something to consider. The other thing, if, for instance, there is bone loss, significant, bone loss, so that would be another. And there are syndromes, women's syndromes that the ovaries stop functioning when the woman is only 40 years of age. So that would be a good case. But all in all, what is very important to bear in mind, there are many factors involved. So I would suggest for every woman, before jumping into, yes, I want to have that, is to look into, okay, go to the doctor. Okay, I think all of us are going to see our physician every year, once at least.
Yeah.
And then talk to the doctor and see, because there are many factors are involved. An alternative is, you probably heard about whatever is available, especially on TV, a lot of commercials about these medications, the biphosphonates. Mm-hmm. They do the same job like estrogen in a sense, that they prevent bone loss. So I want you to, when you see bone, bone is such a solid thing.
Yes.
But
yes,
bone, in fact, is very dynamic, meaning that there are cells to build and cells to, to destroy, because it's like, both are going on at the same time. So when a woman reaches menopause, the rate of bone loss is higher than the new bone is made. So you end up losing more.
Yeah, you don't regain any of those.
Yeah, you don't regain. So estrogen, for instance, the women hormone, as well as the biphosphonates, tend to diminish the resorption. Meaning the breakdown of the bones.
So it's a necessary, very important hormone. So we are replacing it with something that was there. So why? It's too risky,
for the reasons I mentioned. If a woman has a history of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, endometrial cancer, liver disease in general, they cannot take the medication. And as I said, it all depends upon when. If a woman is like 45 years of age and she's not really suffering a lot from the symptoms, well, let her exercise, have a good diet.
Okay.
That will take care of that, But, bear in mind, I don't want a woman to be like, 70 years of age and say, oh, well, I'm going to start now. No, because from the studies we've seen, yes, it will be like, and again, let me go back to who cannot take it, because this is quite important. If a woman has blood clots, like in the lung or in even the legs, they cannot have the hormonal replacement therapy. So the take-home message, which is very, very important, this is the message to all women actually, discuss with your doctor, because they know exactly your family history, your history in general, and they can help, give you great, advice. And it has to be a follow-up. Not say, well, I took it, I'm not going to see the doctor maybe after 5 years, I'm happy with what I'm having. No.
So how long, those who will be approved to take it or to go through this treatment, hormone replacement, how long should they take it, like until what age? Or?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think there are definite criteria for that, but for instance, for the biphosphonates, they are about 7 years. You cannot take them longer, and that should be enough. But the doctor is going to be able to tell you.
How long does menopause stage in women's life last?
It varies. Yeah. This is, some women actually have very minimal symptoms. Some have intense. Some it actually, wanes, waxes and wanes. No woman is like the other. So that's why the doctor would be really better to assess the condition of the individual patients and make the recommendation. I think that would be the best way to go.
That's good.
Yeah. So.
Well, that was great information. Is there do you recommend when we say diet, anything natural that can, any certain foods that's rich with?
Yeah. Well, they say that, for instance, yams, I think tofu. Some of this stuff are rich, but you know, I really, again, you know, I have to make sure that some of these natural things are not necessarily safe. I mean, because everybody will be under, you know, the impression that everything natural should be safe, because everything is, you know, not necessarily the same. So just talk to your doctor. That's the take-home message.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
A great information.
Yes, well, I'm
Thank
happy.
you for sharing all this great information with our audience.
Thank you very much, Iman. Thank you for the invite. I'm happy to be here.
My pleasure. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.